So welcome everybody to another presentation of the Faith-Based Online Learning Directors. I'm delighted to bring you another presenter today. My name is Sebastian Mahfoud. I'm the senior co-chair of the organization that's been around since November of 2013. We began as an offshoot of the Association of Theological Schools Technology and Theological Education Group, which we founded in March of 2008 to address revisions in the ATS standards. Those of you who are following the ATS standards revision know that this June at the biennial in Vancouver, or in some virtual way, there will be a vote taken that will remove residency as a requirement, physical face-to-face engagement with students for all the ministerial programs as well. The meeting in 2012 removed it for the academic programs, and the meeting in 2020 will remove it for the ministerial programs. The only program that it will remain on is the PhD. So that makes our work over the next decade very exciting, and that makes Rollin's presentation that he's about to give very important and relevant. So thank you, Rollin.
Not a problem at all.
So briefly, Rollin Guyden is the Director of Instructional Design and Technology at Columbia Theological Seminary. He's been working in the field of instructional design technology for over 25 years and has had the opportunity to design and implement instruction that utilizes a wide array of instructional design and distance education methods for higher education, business, and private nonprofit organizations. Mr. Guyden has spent the past 15 years developing and running the distance learning program at the Interdenominational Theological Center before moving to Columbia Theological Seminary in June of 2019, where he is currently working to get both a master's and doctorate program online. Mr. Guyden has a master's degree in information technology and has completed his doctoral coursework in comprehensives toward a doctorate in instructional design. Congratulations on that, Rollin.
Yeah, I've been doing comms for like 8 years. I just need to go back and finish that dissertation.
Oh, God bless you. He is also currently a certified Adobe Captivate specialist and contributor on the Adobe e-learning site and a user and implementer of open source instructional technology. Rollin, welcome to our group today.
Thank you very much. I am glad to be here. And I'm also glad to see that a lot of instructors at my old institution, as well as some from my new institution, are starting to populate the audience. So hopefully what I have to say will actually benefit them as well, because the tool I'm going to spend some time talking about is implemented at both schools. So let me go ahead and turn on the old presentation, and we'll go ahead and begin. Okay, so basically what this particular presentation is going to be about is expanding your instructional toolbox to engage students. One of the reasons why I decided to kind of talk about this particular topic, especially now, since even a lot of instructors who are used to just teaching on campus are now having to move into an online environment. Being able to kind of identify different tools that you can use to create instructional content and to engage your students when you move to the online environment. Obviously this is definitely going to be important, because when we talk about engaging students, I'm actually talking about not only providing them with instructional content that is, meaningful to them, but also being able to provide other activities and assessments that also be, conducive to learning and that are, mimic a lot of the things that you're used to doing in your classrooms. So obviously, unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, a lot of schools, most schools of higher education have now adopted some type of online presence. And, as somebody who's been an advocate and a champion trying to get online education into, trying to expand it over the years, this is kind of a two-edged sword for us because, definitely don't want to see it expand because of the reasons that we are currently under. But unfortunately, there's really nothing we can do about that. So because now everybody is moving to that online environment, it is important for especially for the people who have been championing the use of online education to definitely, step up and take the lead and make sure that what does happen over the next few months is something that we can continue to expand upon and grow into a larger movement. So some of the things that we need to want to cover or talk about or focus on is definitely when we move from on campus to online, we definitely want to emphasize the use of, emphasize student engagement. And like I said, I want to expound a little bit more on student engagement and just a little bit on what it is and why we need to do it. But we also then need to, focus on, the pedagogy for online delivery. Now, especially when we're dealing with higher ed, a lot of times it's very easy for, higher ed faculty to, concentrate more on what they're doing in their classrooms and really not, concentrate as much on pedagogy, the art of teaching. So, when we move to online, because it is so much different than teaching in face-to-face, you definitely want to take some time to understand what those differences are. So when you are in the environment and you're interacting with your students, you can you have a better idea of how to provide them the content in the way that they can consume it now versus the way they were consuming it when it was a face-to-face, in a face-to-face classroom. And then of course, keeping it simple, but also keeping it effective. There's a lot of technology available to us nowadays, but it doesn't matter how many bells and whistles we have. If learning isn't taking place, if students still aren't learning the content, then whatever tools that we're using are worthless. In the area of online learning, it's just a video game or just entertainment. So we want to make sure that, not only are we keeping things simple, but we're also making sure that we keep things effective. So, student engagement. Now, when we talk about student engagement, basically what we're talking about is, as instructors, what do we as instructors need to do to make sure that we keep our students motivated in learning the content that we're trying to provide them? Obviously, for most of us, we're teaching older students. A lot of times when we're dealing with andragogy, a lot of times the motivations for learning the students are bringing with them. A lot of times it's because they're trying to advance in their, to get a better job or to make sure they obtain a degree, or a credential that they need to keep moving forward to reach their goals. But whether you're dealing with older students or younger students, the way that you can be the most effective instructor and in the way that you can make sure that students are retaining the information and the content that you're providing is by making sure that you're providing the content in a way that's interesting to them, in a way that keeps them, motivated and also allows them to, basically process what you're giving them in a meaningful way. You want to make sure that it goes from that short-term to long-term memory, but you want to make sure that it goes into long-term memory that is easy to recall and not something that, oh yeah, I remember them talking about that, but I just can't remember what they're talking about. And on this particular slide, obviously some of the pillars of student engagement that it mentions is personalized learning, especially in an online environment. You want to try to personalize, what you're doing in your course as much as possible, especially for those classes that are moving to online from on campus in the middle of the semester, because a lot of the students are nervous not only about the reasons why we've had to move online, but the fact that now that they're having to complete their course using a delivery method that they originally didn't choose, and probably didn't choose because they just weren't comfortable with it. So being able to personalize, what you're doing in your course with your students will help them relax, will help them better learn. And obviously, learning without limits. When we're dealing with going into the online environment, our students have access to not only the content that we provide, but also the ability to continue to look for additional content that will build on what we've given them by using the internet. So a lot of times now that their primary interface that they're using for learning also gives them access to a lot more information than just what we provided. So we're going from just being actual instructors, we are now truly facilitators, because we want to make sure that the content that we're providing them, they can now build on that and they can continue to learn even further and going beyond what we may have even covered in our courses. And obviously student-driven learning, obviously students the students that are going to really gut it out, the ones that are going to, that aren't going to allow the change from going to on campus to online, those are your driven students, and you want to make sure that you keep them motivated and you keep them driven, because the reality is we probably are going to lose some students from the change from going on, from on campus to online, just because there are certain students who just aren't comfortable. And even if we try to make it as comfortable as possible, there's still going to be some students that are just going to choose that that's not the method that they want to do. So the ones that we keep, they're definitely, self-driven, and we want to make sure that we capitalize on that and we build on that. And then obviously competency-based learning, we want to make sure that not only are we providing them content, but they're processing it and are able to analyze and synthesize the content that we've given them. So student engagement is definitely a very important process, especially for online learning. And going back to the keeping it simple, even if it's something as the instructor, even if it's just something as simple as making sure that you provide feedback to your assignments, a little bit faster online than you may have done it on campus, just so students can stay plugged in with you, and they can get that positive feedback or the constructive feedback that they need to be successful in the class. Now, differentiation. Students learn a lot of different ways, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about learning styles and teaching styles, but I need to make sure that I mention it, especially when especially because I'm talking to an audience that's mostly higher ed. The reason why I say that is because most higher ed instructors tend to model their teaching style off of, the instructors in which they tended to learn best. So, which means that a lot of higher ed instructors tend to concentrate more on styles that are dominant to their own learning style. And I just want to make sure that you're aware that, you need to make sure that sometimes that you mix up a little, because there may be some students out there who are learning and are getting by, but may be able to do a little bit better if you change up sometimes how you present the content to the students. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about the LMS, because when I talk about improving or expanding our toolbox, basically our foundation, or where we tend to use our tools, especially now that we're online, is going to be inside of an online environment. And a lot of times as instructors, and even sometimes our administrators and our, we tend to think of our LMS as a primary tool. And most LMSs do have tools in them. And a lot of those tools can be very effective when used correctly. But I want you to try to think of the LMS less as a tool, but more as the actual environment in which you're going to be using the tools. And in this case, when I'm talking about the LMSs, here's some of the advantages to having an LMS in an internet environment. Obviously, the fact that now that the learning environment is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it allows for, students to be able to log in at their own time when and do their work. So it was, even though there are a lot of people who are stuck at home and have a lot more time, there are also a lot of people who are very busy dealing with other issues that have arose because of our situation, and may only be able to log on early in the morning or late at night. So being able to log on when they can is still very important. Obviously, the primary function of the LMS is to organize the academic activities. So we've now moved a lot of our on-campus classrooms into online environments. Now, those online environments is primarily our LMS. So hopefully inside of those LMS areas, you're putting some content in there that, that the students can consume. Hopefully, at the very least, right now you have in there, a copy of the original syllabus and some type of document that explains how the course has changed. Because obviously the syllabus being that contract of how the course is going to be run, because a lot of us have had to change how we run our courses, we want to make sure that there's something in writing that explains to students how the course has changed, how the grades are going to be done, things such as that. So basically a document that updates the syllabus, that explains everything that's going to, how things have changed and how things are going to move forward. Another advantage of the LMS, obviously, is the fact that it is HTML based. Now, the power of HTML code is something that a lot of times we don't really pay much attention to. We realize that yes, our LMS is online, we log on and we go to it, but a lot of times we don't really utilize the power that actually is, that is at hand, because it is an HTML-based tool. In this case, what we call Web 2.0, which means that, the tool itself emphasizes the use of, content being generated not only by the faculty, but also by the students. And also the ability for the environment to integrate or interact with other tools that that are also available online. So we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of power that's actually available to us with the LMS. But probably one of the biggest issues is what I want to talk about on our next slide, is even though we have all this power available to us through our LMS, a lot of times we kind of focus just on these three tools, assignment tools, forum tools, and quizzes. And there's nothing wrong with any of these tools. These are excellent tools, and when utilized correctly, they can be, they're very effective tools. But I know a lot of times, for those of us who have been champions of online learning for a long time, a lot of times one of the responses we get back is, oh yeah, online is good and all, but it really doesn't quite do what, online learning really doesn't, equate well to what I do in my classroom. But what they're really actually saying is these three tools, I can't do what I do in my class. I can't do what I do in my on-campus class using just these three tools. Because a lot of times when we talk about online learning, this is what we're talking, these are the three tools that we tend to talk about the most. And the reality is, for a lot of instructors, they're probably correct. They probably couldn't effectively do their course the way that they currently do it on campus, online, using just these three tools. But there are other tools available, and using those other tools, hopefully then we can find other ways or other methods that we can, expand how we do our lessons online. And hopefully, we'll find other, we'll be able to bring more instructors in because they'll be able to see how other tools are used and how they can use those tools to do what they're used to doing in their classrooms. And once they see a tool that will allow them to do what they're used to doing in their classroom online, a lot of times, then that's when you'll start to see them get motivated and excited about moving their course online. So that's what we want to talk a little bit about, and that's the H5P tool. H5P is a open source and free tool that's available to anybody who wants to use it. It's called H5P, which is an abbreviation for HTML5 package. And again, HTML5 is the current HTML code that allows for us to do more dynamic things online versus the old static websites where you just posted up documents, posted up text, put up a few pictures, and then that was it. With HTML5, we can post dynamic content that uses multimedia and not only provides our students with multimedia content, but also provides a method for students to respond to the content. So we as instructors can actually see what our students are doing, and when we ask them to demonstrate their learning. So H5P is an excellent tool that we can use for expanding how we engage our students in the online environment. Another thing that I want to talk about H5P before I actually get into what it is and how it works is that it is a JavaScript-based and HTML5-based tool. So it uses no Flash. For those of you who are a little bit more tech-based, that Flash, for the most part, is on its really last leg now. Most students who have newer computers don't even have Flash installed on their devices. So if you're still using some type of content that relies on a Flash player, a lot of times your students aren't even going to be able to play that content. And a lot of students, unless they're a little bit more technology savvy, don't even have a clue of how to, get the drivers they need to play that old content. So being able to have dynamic multimedia-based content that plays inside the browser without any additional drivers needed is something that's very important. And that's something that H5P actually does. And because it is an open source tool for schools that are using Moodle, you can actually integrate H5P into your Moodle system using plugins for free, meaning you don't have to pay anything extra. You can actually go in on the H5P plugin, install it into your Moodle system, and you actually will have this tool readily available to you as part of your activities and resources tool set. And for those of you who are using other LMSs like Canvas or Blackboard, Desire to Learn, you can still use H5P for free. And I'm going to show you in just a little bit how you can access H5P on the free version using the h5p.org. But they now also have a paid service which allows you to integrate into Canvas and Blackboard and other LMSs using LTI integration as software as a service. So you can actually pay to have it integrated into your other LMSs as well. You can still use it for free in those other LMSs, but when you integrate it with your LMS, that allows you to not only use a lot of those same tools, but you can also integrate it with the gradebook. Now, what are some of the things we can do? What are some of the things we can do with H5P? Well, H5P has over 40, interactive interactions available. So H5P in its own right is a toolbox because it has over 40 different interactions that are available that you as instructors can use to create all kinds of different content for your students. And when I say content, I'm talking about resources, meaning content that you provide to your students for them to consume and interact with, but also activities, meaning you can also create multimedia-based activities, quizzes, and things such as that, which allows for students to engage and provide you with content so you can see what the students are learning. And what I have up here on this particular slide are just a few of the tools that are the more common or more popular tools that are available inside of H5P, such as interactive video. If you're somebody who likes to use videos in your course, you like to post them on YouTube or put them on your Google Drive, and you want to be able to then stream your videos to your students, this particular tool will allow you to expand on just making a video available to your students. Using interactive video, you'll be able to turn on different behavioral aspects, such as not allowing students to fast forward through a particular video. So if there's a video that you really want your students to watch, you can set up interactive video and you can turn off fast forward so that it has to play through. And then you as the instructor will know not only that they actually clicked on a link to watch the video, but that the video is played through. But on top of just being able to see whether or not the video played through, you can add interactions into the video, meaning you can add questions into the video or put them at the end of the video. So as the video plays on, you can actually stop and quiz your students to make sure that they've retained the information that you wanted them to learn from that video. So maybe at a certain period of time, the video plays, it stops, a question pops up, student doesn't answer the question correctly, you can set it up so the student has to go back and rewatch that part. You can set it up, they can continue to just watch it, and then they can take quizzes, answer quiz questions throughout the whole thing. And if you're using Moodle or if you're using software as a service, you can actually then take those quiz questions and turn them into graded assignments. So it's definitely a way that you can enhance using videos in your course. And then course presentations, is a way that you can actually, put a presentation directly into your course environment. And then inside of that particular presentation, you can again add other interactions such as quiz questions. So you can go through and set up an entire lesson that has multimedia video, has pictures, and then has questions for the assessment questions for them to go through. So as they go through the presentation, they can actually be scored. They can get a grade as they go through. Branching scenarios, this is good, especially for like pastoral care. If you want to set up scenarios on how to react to certain situations, you can actually create scenario-based, lessons. So when they choose a particular option, it'll then branch off on that particular option. So as depending on what they choose, it'll branch out in different directions. And if it's, so if they're doing something incorrectly, at the final result may be, may show that how they will show that they did something wrong, but give them some corrective methods on why what they chose was incorrect, and then they can go back and do it again and use and until they go through the scenario correctly. So you can actually build scenarios, using this tool. And then iframe embedder is another really cool tool, because it allows you to take web-based content that you may want to put into your course, but maybe doesn't have an embedded, the option to embed it itself. You can take a URL off the website, put it in this particular tool, and then inside of this particular tool, it'll then make an embedded iframe code that you can then use inside of your LMS. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to stop the presentation, and I'm going to pull up my web browser, and I'm going to kind of go through and show you some H5, show you H5P, but before I actually go into the web browser, does anybody have any questions or comments before I move on to the next part, where I spend a little bit more time going over the actual tool?
Rollin, one,
Yeah.
See a great deal of application. It is that you're saying just in terms of the ethics classes I teach, or the moral theology courses at our school. So this is the branching method seems to me to be an incredibly powerful instructional tool.
It is. One of the things, again, as an Adobe Captivate specialist, and I use Adobe Captivate, a lot of the interactions that are available in this free tool will allow you to do a lot of the same things, allow you to create a lot of the same interactive content that you can create using Captivate, but you're not spending $600 or $700 a year on it. And you may decide, hey, this tool allows me to do some instead of paying all that money for the tool. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Adobe Captivate, but this allows you to do a lot of the same things without having to pay the money. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to open up my web browser and share it. Okay, so I have a few things open. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to h5p.org, and I'm actually going to log out so you can kind of see. So h5p.org is the URL to go to H5P, and you can sign up for a free account by just clicking on Create Free Account. And once you create a free account, I'm going to go ahead and log in. You'll be able to log in, and you'll be able to then create a lot of those interactions that I was just talking about. If you go, so once you have an account set up, I go over here to Contents. let's go back there. And then you'll be able to go here, create new content. And when you create new content, it's going to open up this picker, which allows you to pick the different types that are available. Now I'm just going to kind of scroll through here real quick. You have course presentations, interactive videos. You have the ability to create multiple choice questions and quiz sets, fill in the blanks, drag words, hotspot images. And, hotspot images I think are really good for, especially a lot of biblical classes where you have like a lot of maps, and things like that. And you can create hotspots over images. So when they click on different parts of the image, it pulls up content. Now, the type of content that you can use in hotspot images, it can be text content, it can be videos and other images. So you can do multimedia inside of other multimedia. You have little accordions, so you can set up content in an accordion fashion. You can set up memory games, flashcards, timelines, which is another really cool thing because it allows you to, it's an interactive multimedia-based timeline. So again, if you want to set up a timeline and then you put the different items on your timeline, and then when students click on it, they can actually open up additional content. Speak the words, which is a really cool tool because you can actually set up questions that students can respond to verbally. So, you can use it for language classes, especially, in other classes where you may want to have students enunciate certain things. So there's a lot of different tools available. And if you log on to the H5P website and you set up an account, all you have to do to access one of these tools is click on the actual tool, and it'll actually give you a definition of how the tool works. It'll even show you a demo. In this case, I'll kind of go through the demo real quick. So here's a demonstration of one of the interactive tools, one of the interactive videos. This is a pretty short one, so I'll just kind of go through it real quick. Stops me at this particular point, and it's asking me, okay, what are the ingredients that it's already showed me so far? So if I wasn't paying attention and I clicked the, let's say, I'm gonna click the wrong things because I know it didn't show me milk and it didn't show me cookies. So if I click on that, it says, oh, nope. So I have to go back and watch it again. Now, in this particular case, they didn't turn off that scoring. So I can jump back over here. I can click on, I can click on the right things. And then the video continues. So inside this particular video, it has, it's showing me a video, and then there are interactions that are put inside of it. So like, and then another interaction pops up. And you can set up these interactions, so the video can stop and a question can pop up, and that you can require them to answer correctly to continue, or they can just, you can just have them answer it, and then it can record the answers, but the video can continue. So you can set up the behaviors of the videos in a lot of different ways. But that's just a quick example of an interactive video. I was selecting interactive video videos. So I click on use interactive video. It's going to load up the interactive video. Now it's going to allow me to either upload a video, I can upload it directly, or I can take a URL from a YouTube video and open up just real quick. Let's open up YouTube real quickly. Just pick any old thing. Everything's virus-based nowadays. I'm just going to pick any old thing.
Hi, I'm Rex Moore with the Motley Fool in front of BMW's self-driving exhibit at CES in Las Vegas. Now, have you ever wondered how to invest in this revolution?
Go back over here to the content and I put it over here. Put it in the wrong spot. Sorry about that. I go in here and I put in a YouTube video and hit insert. It'll now insert that video, and then I can come over here to add interactions. So it pulls the video up, and here are all the different interactions that it allows me to do. I can create labels, text, tables. I can put in additional links. I can put in other images. I can, put in all these different questions, statements, multiple choice questions, true and false questions, even Crossroads, which is where I can put in, Crossroads is a good little tool, especially for longer videos, because it allows you to then give the viewer a selection of where they want to go in the video. So those are just all the different things that are available. And then some of the behavioral settings, you can choose where the video starts, whether it plays or loops. And then you can, because I'm not going all the way through there, there's a place in here also where you can turn off the fast forwarding. But because I'm not going all the way through this right now, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of this particular one. And I want to show you a few others that I think that are pretty cool to take advantage of. So I'm going to go back here to the content area. And again, I talked about the course presentation, how it allows you to have different types of interactions within the presentation. I'm just going to click on the details. And again, when you go here to h5p.org, for every interaction, it'll actually give you a demo on how it works. And there's actually also even a tutorial area that you can go to. So if I click on the demo, and I scroll down here on the demo, I can go to click on the tutorial. It'll actually walk me through the steps for each of the 41. I think right now there's 41 interactions. Each of the 41 interactions that are available, it'll actually show you how to create one. So from the website, h5p.org, if you create an account, you can then, play around on h5p.org. Now, one of the things I want to let you know is if you create content from h5p.org, whatever content that you create is still publicly accessible. So if you want to, let me go over here. If you want to use H5P, and you want to use it privately or within your organization, like I said, you can use Moodle, WordPress, or Drupal. If you have WordPress or a Drupal site, you can actually integrate it into those sites as well using the plugin. Now, for Canvas and Blackboard, you can use software as a service. But one of the things I haven't found out, I don't know how much they're charging. I don't think it's very much, but one of the things you can do is that you can actually go to an internet service provider and you can get like an inexpensive internet hosting account that has a cPanel, and for like $50 a year, you can then set up your own Moodle server or your own WordPress server or your own Drupal server, and then you can run your H5P, on your own account. So if you don't have a WordPress site or a Moodle site or a Drupal site, you can set one up fairly cheap by going to an internet service provider. Like I said, for like $50 a year, you can get internet hosting, and then you can just set up your own Moodle site or your own WordPress site. So real quick, I just want to show you what H5P looks like inside of an LMS. Now, I'm using Columbia's website, and they use Moodle. And a lot of the faculty that are online right now are ITC. Yours will actually work the exact same way. So if you go to Moodle and you go to add an activity or a resource, you'll notice that H5P interactive content is available on the activities list. So if you click on H5P and click add, just like you're adding an assignment or a form or anything such as that, it'll bring up that same H5P picker that was on the h5p.org website. So you have access to all those interactions right inside of Moodle. So if you wanted to, set up a virtual tour, or if you wanted to set up a collage, a photo collage, all you'd have to do is click on the item. Again, because a lot of these tools, I'm going through and installing one, choosing one I haven't done before. So you can see that it doesn't take long. If you've never, if you see a tool available and it doesn't say use, but says get or install, all you gotta do is click on it, and then it'll install it real quick, and then you can use it. And then once you click on use, just like from the website, you'll have the ability to go through and set up the actual content. Now, another thing I want you to be aware of is that currently the newer versions of Moodle, if you're using Moodle 3.8 or higher, H5P is not only available as a plugin, but H5P is now also going to be on the newer versions of Moodle. And I have I'm going to show you another site. Here's another website that's using a newer version of Moodle, that H5P is actually integrated into the auto editor. So no matter what tool that you choose to use, whether it's an assignment or a label or even just it's built into the text editor. So H5P in the newer version of Moodle is built right into the auto text editor. So you'll be able to use H5P content, anywhere within the LMS if you're using Moodle. Columbia and ITC, you'll get that ability later on this summer after the semester ends. But right now, it's available to you in the plugin format, like I showed you here on this website, where you just have to click on add an activity or resource and then choose H5P. So I just want to stop right here and see if anybody has any questions or comments. So I'm going to boom, and it's a lot of stuff inside of H5P, but one of the things, hopefully, because a lot of us are stuck at home and have a lot of extra time to do other reading and faculty development, if you go to h5p.org, you can spend a few hours just playing around on that site, choose some of the tools, look at all the different tools that are available, and then you can just kind of use the ones that that interest you, learn more. Yes.
This is Dr. Brown at Phillips School of Theology at the ITC. The question that I had was, in using H5P, you mentioned doing testing and things of that, quizzes and so on and so forth. Does it automatically store the results of the tests and keep them?
Yes, you can set up, because you're at ITC, you can actually set up, using like the quiz tool or the test, some of the different interactions inside of that are available inside of H5P. You can set it up so it goes to the grade book.
Okay.
So you can set it up that way. I think it's great more for smaller quizzes. I wouldn't want to do like a final exam or anything such as that using H5P. I still would recommend using the Moodle quiz tool. And because you're at ITC, we have Respondus, so you can actually use Respondus to create a larger exam.
Right.
But if you want to just do some smaller quizzes, because one of the things that H5P does allow that the Moodle quiz tool doesn't allow is for more interactive interactions. There are some tools inside of H5P that will allow you to create more creative or more interactive, lessons or quizzes versus just the same. There's a more like matching and fill in the blanks would probably be better through H5P than through the Moodle quiz tool.
Right. I'm thinking more along the lines of the summer course, the summer sessions, and the fall semester. Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I'd be more than happy to, if you want, we could schedule some more in-depth H5P lessons later on down the road.
Absolutely.
But all the stuff that you need is right there on h5p.org.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hey, Rollin, this is M.
Uh-huh.
I have questions about user friendliness from the point of view of the students. So I have, as you know, with ITC, there are students coming from a number of different age groups.
Right.
And I have definitely had some students not know how to make something full screen and stuff like that. So are there maybe videos or tutorials to help the students learn how to use the platforms?
Yeah, well, I can help you make some.
Okay.
But one of the things about because I'm showing this to you from an instructor standpoint.
Right.
A lot of times, the student is just going to be interacting with a piece of content that was already created.
Mm-hmm.
So like good example, if you have an interactive video, a video starts to play. You may have to send out a little message that says, okay, during these particular videos, because they're interactive, there are going to be some, there are going to be some times where it's going to stop and ask you questions. If you as an instructor set up those questions, or they have to answer them to progress through, then you may want to tell them that ahead of time. But once they actually use the tool or actually are consuming the content, in a lot of ways it will be a little bit more self-explanatory, because the video will stop, question will pop up, they have to answer it,
Mm-hmm.
or they won't move on.
Okay.
But in certain cases, you just like any other tool, in the description area, you may have to put a little bit more description on what they're about to engage in.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Let's see. I know there's a good amount of things. Looks like they're popping up in the Q&A in the chat group.
One last question.
Yeah, sure.
And I think I asked the facilitator at the beginning, Sebastian, if you're going to make this available to us.
Yes, it will be available. It will be available in the Fold, on the Fold website, but I'll also put a link inside of the faculty development. I'll put a link to this video inside of the faculty development area inside of Moodle too.
Thank
So probably a little bit later on today, especially tomorrow, this will be available there as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So the Zoom presentation will be available within the next hour or so. If you'll email me the PowerPoint as well, Rollin, I'll post
Sure.
that or send it to Vicky to post. So
Yeah.
it'll depend upon when Vicky's back at her computer and can post.
It's not a problem. I have no problems. I'll send them. I'll send them as soon as we're done. As soon as I log off here, I'll send a copy of the PowerPoint.
What would be cool is if this software would enable us to post something on this background behind Paul here. Where he could ask questions and pop up like survey user polls or watch viewer polls and things like that, you know.
Hey, we have to play around with it a while. We may figure out a way, because that's another thing about a lot of these tools that are available to us. You know, sometimes once you have a tool at your disposal and you learn what it can do, sometimes if you just think a little bit outside of the box, you'll find that you can use that same tool to do some other things that it really wasn't intended for, but can still be used for. So
Right.
I'll definitely find a lot of different ways, you know, that you can use a lot of the different interactions to, you know, because I think that, you know, from the standpoint, especially for like, you know, a lot of the Bible classes where, you know, where maps and timelines can be used, to have those things interactive and be able to post them online where students can literally walk through a timeline and click on different areas and have content pop up, you know, basically to have an interactive timeline, I think is pretty cool. And I think some of the other tools, you know, would be good for the languages, you know, especially there's a tool in there that allows you to highlight, you know, you can like put up a written word and you can have students highlight certain things. So you can have them, you know, if they're like highlight the adjectives or highlight, you know, anything particular. You know, so there's a lot of different things. So it just takes a little bit of thinking outside of the box, or kind of thinking, okay, well, what are some of the cool activities I used to do inside of my classroom? And then look through that list of 41 tools to see what comes close to what you were doing in the classroom, so you can still do those same things online.
Right. Well, in more than just it's being cool, it addresses or enables us to address real needs, especially in these environments where, as instructors, as teachers of students, we're called to be proactively engaged.
Yes.
And anybody can record a presentation on his or her iPhone and then upload it to an LMS. But that doesn't model the kind of interactive engagement or proactive engagement that the tool that you're demonstrating for us today actually does. So thank you so very much for this presentation. It's very valuable and very needed.
It can definitely enhance your talking head videos, especially if you have questions inside that you can ask them as the lecture's going on.
So I totally agree with that, but I also want to make the point that this is also a fair amount of labor, and as I'm sure you know, because you've made them. And so I also want to be kind of aware about the ways in which faculty may or may not be being compensated for the labor that we are putting into some of our teaching models, especially those of us who are junior faculty. So I just think that that's something that administrators should really take into account, is that faculty members learning how to do new labor, whether it's technological or research oriented. As you know, a millennial, I believe that this kind of labor should be compensated.
Definitely.
Well, I'm not a millennial, and I know one thing. I agree with you, Dr. Tong. I also think that, considering what we're talking about, it might even be a good idea if the school provide us with better laptops. I mean, I'm using my MacBook Pro, and it's kind of old. And if we're going to be on this platform, then that might be something that we need to either write a grant for, or at the very least have a conversation about. Isn't that right, Dr. Mafico?
Definitely. Now, yeah, and those are all good. Those are all great points. Those are all very great points. But one of the benefits also to using a tool such as H5P is that once you've created a particular learning module, it's reusable. So you create a particular piece of content, especially, this is probably another workshop we probably need to have somewhere down the road. Because I know as an instructional designer, I see sometimes a lot of times when faculty members are creating content, they will make it date specific. And if you learn how to sometimes make it so you're concentrating more on the content and kind of keep keep specific dates and stuff out of it, it'll allow you to reuse those particular pieces of content. So if you're talking about a particular, if you're covering a particular, book in scripture or whatever such as that, you can reuse that again and again and again. Even if you change up, even if you're using it in a different course, if you're still going to present a particular lesson or a particular piece of content, you can then start to reuse it. So the library of tools is an excellent thing that we've talked about, but you may also start to think as you start to amass a larger set of tools and you're creating more content, is making sure that you are creating that library of content. So somewhere down the road, when you're creating new courses, you'll be able to take content that you've already created and reuse it. I know we've kind of gone over our time, so definitely if you guys have any other questions or comments, I know a lot of you guys are ITC folk, definitely email me specifically, or or like I said, I may do something a little bit more specific, a little bit later on, once I get a little bit more time.
It'll be great to have you back for sure, Rollin.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody would close us in prayer, do we have any ministers among us?
There are people around there.
Dr. Brown?
Sure. Creator and sustainer, thank you so much for what our ears have heard, and in some cases what our eyes have seen, but most importantly what our hearts have felt. Thank you for the wisdom and knowledge of Mr. soon-to-be Dr. Rollin Guyden. Thank you for the facilitation of Dr. Sebastian. We are so grateful for all the participants, and God, we pray that what we have both heard and learned today can be utilized to help all of the students that we are engaged and responsible for. Dismiss us from this format, certainly not your presence. In the name of Jesus, our Christ, we pray. Amen. Have a good night.
Amen. Good night, everybody. Thank you so
Amen,
much.
Ashe.
Thank you guys for coming. Here, let me should you get your host back so you can turn off the recording?
I'm going to claim it right now and end meeting. God bless.